Hello and welcome once again. In this video, we'll be looking at plant tissue and organs. Can you name any plant organs or tissues? What's the difference between a cell, a tissue, and an organ? And what do plants need to survive and how do they obtain these raw materials? So, in terms of plant organs and tissues, plant organs would be the root, the stem, the shoot, the flowers. In terms of tissues, you're talking about the spongy mesophyll, the palisade mesophyll, the xylem, the phloem, etc. What's the difference between a cell, a tissue, and an organ? A cell, or rather, cells are the building blocks of life, while a tissue is made when specialized cells with the same function are grouped together, and an organ is made from two or more tissues which all work together to do a particular job. And then what do plants need to survive? They need water, they need carbon dioxide, they need light energy, and of course warmth. How do they get them? They get the carbon dioxide from the air, the light energy and warmth from the sun. They get water and of course mineral ions from the soil, which they pick up through their roots. Now, links to combined science specification. So in this one, you'll learn about the epidermal tissue, palisade mesophyll, spongy, xylem and phloem, meristem tissue, and so on. The leaf is an organ. Knowledge limited to epidermis, palisade and spongy mesophyll, xylem, phloem, and guard cells surrounding the stomata. Now, for photosynthesis, carbon dioxide plus water is needed to make glucose and oxygen as a waste product. The word equation for photosynthesis is CO2 plus H2O plus, which gives you glucose, which is C6H12O6, and oxygen. Now that symbol equation is not balanced, which we will attend to in the next slide. Photosynthesis. This is the way plants make food from sunlight, their source of energy. The reaction is endothermic because remember now, in endothermic reaction, energy is taken in from the surroundings to power the reaction. Let's complete these gap fill activities. You can pause the video and write the sentences down, then fill in the blank spaces based on your knowledge, also from the previous slide. Photosynthesis is an endothermic reaction used by plants to make their own food. Energy is required in the form of sunlight. Sunlight or light energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll, which is in the chloroplast of the leaf. This energy is used to convert carbon dioxide and water into glucose. Oxygen is produced as a byproduct. Now, the challenge says balance the equation above. Now, if you remember how to balance your equations, you know that you need to have equal amount of each element on both the reactant side of the equation of the arrow and the product side. Now, in this equation, you can see that you have 6 carbons on the product side and only 1 on the reactant side. That would suggest that you need 6 carbon over here. On the reactant side, you have 2 hydrogen, but on the product side, you've got 12. So, simple maths. If I've got 2 on the reactant side and I've got 12 there, it means I need 6 over here. 6 times 2 is 12. So my carbons and my hydrogens are balanced. Now let's check for the oxygens. On the reactant side, I've got 6 times 2 is 12 oxygens there, and I've got 6 here. 6 plus 2 is, 6 plus 12 is 18. And on the product side, I've got 6 oxygen here, and over here I've got 2. So it means I need to put a number 6 there. Let's see if that's balanced now. So 6 times 2 is 12, oxygen there, 6 there, that's 18. I've got 6 here, and I've got 12 here. It's all balanced. Brilliant. So it's all a matter of adding them up, making sure that you have the same amount of each element on either side of the equation of the arrow in order to consider it balanced. All right, so that's done. So plant organs, so leaves, stem, roots, and then function of each of these. So the leaves, this structure is needed to support the leaves and the stem, so these are not in the correct order. Roots and stem. So if I had to draw lines in order to do that here, the structure is the site of photosynthesis. That sounds like the leaves to me. The stem, this structure is needed for absorption of water. That sounds like the roots, and the stem supports the leaves and flowers. And there you have it. Now there's a video that you need to watch, which is talking about the structure of the leaf and its function. So you can use this. I'll put the link in the description so you can follow. Otherwise, you can type in virtual school and you'll find the video there. So where does most photosynthesis take place? Which part of the leaf receives the most light? Why is large surface area useful? What are the pores on the underside of the leaf called? What enters through the stomata? And what does water, or where does water enter the plant? What does the epidermis do? So you can actually write these down, then you can watch the video. Let's see if it will. Yep, so that's the video right there. You can click on and watch. So photosynthesis takes place mainly inside the palisade mesophyll, and that is found on the upper side of the leaf where it is exposed to sunlight. The plant organ that receives the most light is the leaf. So you have many leaves on the plant facing upwards towards the sun. Leaves have large surface area to trap as much sunlight as possible. The pores in the underside of leaves are called the stomata, which I will show you in the next video what the stomata looks like if you haven't seen them before. Carbon dioxide enters through the stomata, because remember at the start of this video I said that plants get their oxygen, or rather carbon dioxide, through the stomata. Water enters through the roots, and the epidermis produce a waxy coating or cuticle which stops bacteria from getting into the leaf and water from getting out. So that helps to reduce the rate of transpiration or loss of water by evaporation through the leaves. Okay. Now here we have some multiple choice questions, so you can pause the video and have a go. Which of the following are reactants in photosynthesis? So for photosynthesis you need carbon dioxide and water because it says reactants. Which of the following absorbs energy required for photosynthesis? And it's the chlorophyll. Where does most photosynthesis take place? Photosynthesis takes place in leaves, in the palisade mesophyll. What enters through the stomata? And it's carbon dioxide. And then extra challenge says, what are the pores on the underside of the leaf called? And remember, it's the stomata. And write a balanced word equation for photosynthesis, and that is carbon dioxide. I'm going to have to write it up here. Carbon dioxide plus water give you glucose and oxygen. Good. Okay. Leaf structure. Which of the following are reactants in photosynthesis? Okay, so I've done that already. And well, this is not right. Reactants. Yes, my animation's going crazy. Which of the following absorbs energy required? That's chlorophyll. Where does most photosynthesis take place? It takes place in the palisade mesophyll, in the leaves of the plant. What enters through the stomata? Carbon dioxide. All right, and now here you have a cross-section of a leaf. And you're expected to know what each of these sections represent. So you have the waxy cuticle at the top of the leaf, and the waxy cuticle's job is to ensure that one, microbes don't enter and cause disease of the leaf, and two, to reduce water loss from the plant. Then you have the spongy mesophyll, which is the area in which gas exchange takes place. You have the stomata, which is really in this section right here, these openings. The palisade mesophyll is where you have these tightly packed cells loaded with chlorophyll. The xylem and phloem are also found inside this section. Can't see anything on there, but it's there, and that's where you have transport taking place. In the xylem is where water and minerals are transported up the stem towards the leaves in one direction, while the phloem is where you have the transportation of sugars made during photosynthesis up and down the plant. So it goes up the plant wherever it's needed. And this process is called translocation. Translocation. And the stomata, yes, its job is to allow for gases to enter and leave the plant, right? Leave the leaf. But it's not open all the time. It is controlled by the guard cells. So these are the guard cells here. And there are various conditions that can affect the opening and closing of the stomata, which I will cover in the next video. Why are plants so important? Well, first of all, we can't live without them. They provide us with food, they provide us with shelter, they provide us with materials for housing, they provide us with oxygen. So every living thing, or energy is for living things. Photosynthesis uses energy. The energy usually comes from the sun in the form of electromagnetic radiation. The plant absorbs this energy and it stores it within glucose molecules. This is where all of your energy comes from. It comes from the food that you eat that originally is traced back to plants. Explain how the following cells are vital for plants to carry out photosynthesis: guard cells and palisade cells. So remember now that guard cells are important for, they control the opening and closing of the stomata. Palisade cells are important for photosynthesis because they are packed with chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll, which is where the process of photosynthesis take place. And there you have the answers. And then plenary questions. Explain how the tissues in a leaf are arranged to form an effective organ for photosynthesis. And challenge: plants contain specialized tissues that are adapted to their function. Explain how the epidermal tissue protect the surface of the leaf, and the palisade mesophyll tissue is adapted for its photosynthesis, and the spongy mesophyll is adapted for photosynthesis. And you can pause the video, write the questions down, then you come over here and you can look at and compare your answers. So this is just a quick recap of the structure of the leaf, location of the different parts of it, where the palisade mesophyll is, the spongy, and the epidermal tissue, and their function. So xylem and phloem transport vessels in plants. Okay, I'll leave that there. Thanks again for watching. Hope this video was helpful, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.